We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the roads collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good afternoon, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Delighted to say that Talk of the Toon is here with Sid, and Rob will be with us at 1:30. How are you, Sid?
Not bad, yourself?
Very good. Songs from the Attic, 1977 is Sid's channel. There it is, across the bottom of the picture. Make sure you go and subscribe to that today if you like your music, and I know you who tune in certainly will. I just wanted to say our thoughts are with the people who've suffered what can only be described as a cataclysmic explosion in Benwell overnight. The house is absolutely devastated. Those of you who live on Tyneside, those of you who live around the world and who have seen it like I have on the website.
It's horrific, wasn't it?
It's awful. And, 4 people in hospital. I'm not sure what the situation is other than that. But our hopes and thoughts and prayers go with those people who've been involved in that, because that's awful. Big explosion last night. Let's hope they're okay. Okay, let's move on and talk football. We've got an hour to talk Newcastle, but I'm going to talk England first, Sid. And we can all breathe a collective sigh of relief on Tyneside. And those journalists who like to wind us mags up, we'll have to go and find something else to wind us up about now, because Eddie Howe is staying put. Thomas Tuchel is going to be the new England manager. What did you make of that, Sid?
Yeah, good. Decent appointment. 18 months, isn't it? So it's not long. Obviously, it's a trial basically for the World Cup. It might suit both parties because he's one of those guys. He tends not to stay his jobs very, very long. So, it suits both parties. Works great for us. Obviously, it means we've got Howe for another 18 months. And at that point, he lived in almost 5 years. So it might be the set amount of time at that point, for him to move. Who knows? But, I think it's a great appointment. I genuinely don't care that he's from a different country. As long as he does a good job, that's all that matters, isn't it? It's, I'm really not bothered where he's from. It really doesn't bother me one iota.
I think the irony hasn't been wasted on me that they have hammered Lee Carsley for not singing the national anthem in his short period as interim manager. If Tuchel doesn't sing the national anthem because he's German, are they going to say the same to him? That's what's going to happen, though, isn't it, Sid? And this is what I mean about the press. They stir things up. They'll have a pop. Not all press, of course. I can't judge everyone by the same, as some of the gutter press that we see. But that's what's going to happen, and it will be an impossible job. And I was talking to somebody this morning. I mean, we've seen various managers turned into Swedes and turnips and the lot. There'll be a whole multitude of things that will probably be chucked at.
Graham Taylor was probably the last one who got it that bad, wasn't he?
Sven Gordon Eriksson did as well.
I can't remember. I just remember Graham Taylor's treatment was appalling. Actually, it was terrible. Yeah. I mean, also, what happens if you're like me, a Republican? So I've got I don't really care about the royal family. I don't see the point of them. So what happens with that? You don't have to go and sing "God Save the King" or whatever. Who cares?
Oh, Sid's gone into a pause there. Now I'm not sure. Oh, you're back, Sid. You're back. You had an internet.
All right.
Had an internet fallout there, mate, and you went.
Yeah. The working outside, so I suspect that might be the issue. It doesn't mean you're less patriotic than the next person. Just means he doesn't believe in a specific thing, So
I mean that's it. I mean I'm the polar opposite. I'm a royalist. I believe in the royal family. Fine. I believe in it, and but I certainly don't believe in making somebody who doesn't believe in the royal family or isn't from this country to sing our national anthem. I mean, it's ludicrous. So, look, let's hope Tuchel gets a good run at it.
Already some of the papers have absolutely lambasted him, haven't they? And it's not his fault at the end of the day, and having to go to the FA for choosing him. And I mean, one of the papers has got German in capital letters, which is, again, it's just abysmal. And bearing in mind that newspapers' viewpoints in the past is somewhat ironic. Some of them are just awful. The gutter press is just atrocious, Give the guy a chance. I think he'll do a great job. I genuinely do. Does he play scintillating football? No. Does he win? Yes. And
he's good in cup competitions. He's good in cup competitions.
Won 8 cups. All right, he's won 8 trophies. Okay, none of them, like as you say, cups, FA cups, or the equivalent in Germany and France as well, or wherever. So he's a cup winner. He's a cup specialist. That cannot be, that can't be to the detriment. I'd absolutely go for it. Absolutely go for it. He'll play more attractive football than Southgate. Let's be honest, in my opinion, Southgate did a very good job. He did brilliantly in terms of reuniting the team again after all those years when they'd be off in little factions, and you'd have your Liverpool faction, your Man United faction, your Chelsea faction in the club, and they weren't playing as a team. They now play as a team, and that's all down to Southgate. So you doff your cap, but he was found out. We should have beaten Italy in the Euros. We should have beaten them. We're 1-0 up. Go for it. Beat them. We should have done it. And he didn't. So yeah, that's exactly my viewpoint there, by the way.
Yeah. No, that's fine, mate. That's fine. Listen, that's it. And it is the big news story today. Good luck to him. Let's hope he has, let's hope
this guy will be, if we're in a 1-0 situation, I can see him going through and winning it. That's my viewpoint, and I think he'll do a good job.
Yeah, I think as well, the fact that he's worked with a lot of these players before will benefit them. I think certain players who probably thought their England career was up, Harry Kane potentially, could have fell foul. He's worked with Tuchel recently, and I think, there may be that kind of feeling from him that he'll want some friends in the dressing room. So some of these players who may be thinking about retiring might just give it another 18 months now, So
can I just add as well? Do you not think Tuchel looks a bit like Gordon Lee, or is that?
Oh, there is no doubt he is the son. He is the son. He's the son of Gordon Lee, isn't he? I hope he's not the same type of Gordon Lee as far as England.
It was just me.
Supermac had noticed the likeness as well. I think. God bless him. Now I thought it was Supermac. He's not well, as we know, and he's still like most people having to join a long queue waiting for an operation, which isn't great. But our thoughts to Malcolm get well too. Fixture changes. Sid has reared its head again. Look, it's part and parcel of being a big team. Newcastle United are box office. There's no doubt about it. We know that. And so do TNT and so does Sky. And the latest set of fixtures came out. And wow, Newcastle's games moved. One of them by 15 minutes, which is bizarre. It's the
that's
time,
weird. That is weird.
I don't think I've ever seen that happen before.
Is it a 7:15 kickoff or something stupid?
7:30 now. It was originally 7:45.
We've done 7:30s before, haven't we?
Yeah, that's Liverpool anyway. Liverpool at home, so no great problems there. Aston Villa at home on the Boxing Day is a 3 o'clock kickoff, which is great. 3 o'clock on a Boxing Day.
Boxing Day record is the worst. It is the absolute pits. I mean, what do they go and do? Do they get absolutely hammered every year on Christmas Day? I mean, nobody can have a worse track record than us. But can I just add, the amount of home games we've had over 30 years is so low percentage-wise. It was always Sunderland would get the home game. It just seems to may have flipped in the last 2 or 3 years, but that's literally it. It's been awful. Every year you could almost write down Boxing Day watching the football on the telly because we're not going to be at home. And it's nice to be playing at home.
Exactly. Of course it is, mate. Of course it is. So, we've got Boxing Day, which is great. The Manchester United game, that annoyed me slightly. It got moved from the Sunday to the Monday. It's away from home. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff now. That's slightly frustrating. Means, it scuppers a few people's plans. Spurs away, Saturday, the 4th of January. Really annoying. It's now a 12:30 kickoff, Sid. 12:30. It just doesn't give people a chance. And if there's one delay...
It is what I will say, and let's be honest, Newcastle have a load of fans who live down south, so it's great for those, but it's a nightmare. And again, it's the classic game at the time. It's a real nightmare in terms of getting there because you're going to have to leave really, really early to get there.
Yeah.
However, it's probably better, more favourable than say a 5:30 kickoff because that's an absolute howler to try and get home. Because Spurs is quite hard to get to.
It is.
People seem to forget that I've been there, and it's actually a bit of a mare to get. It's a bit of a mare to get to, whereas Arsenal's ground was much easier to get to, even though they're quite relatively close. It's never ideal. It's never ideal.
No, it's not. Unfortunately, this is just part and parcel. I guess not just being a big club, but it's just part and parcel of being a Newcastle fan, Sid, isn't it? And and a football fan. We are the last people considered when anything's moved. It's all about TV.
Well, unfortunately for us, we are the furthest north, aren't we? And therefore that's the way it works. You could argue the same with Brighton to a lesser extent because they've obviously got more teams based down that way. If you were playing the other end of the country, but unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. You would like to see the FA have a little bit more consideration when they do the fixtures at the beginning of the season in terms of trying to manipulate where and when some of these games are, especially the Christmas games when it is a bit more difficult to get to various locations. Some of them are just daft. The odd time when you get Brighton 5:30 on a Monday or something, those sort of kickoff times are just crackers. It's just clearly not designed for the fans, and they genuinely, I just don't think they're bothered. They're really not bothered. And that applies to all of the fans across the country, not just us. Yeah,
it does. At the weekend, there was a game. It wasn't the men's team, it was the women's team. And what a great result at the Stadium of Light against
one of the goals was a cracking goal. One of the goals was a belter.
Beth Lumsden double, so the Magpies pick up all 3 points, mate. Yeah, what did you make of it?
Yeah, quite funny. I mean, I don't really follow. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know much. I don't really follow the women's football very much. I watch some of the international games. They're very good, actually. It's nice because also, of course, it's great for the area. It's great for the women's game, which is just superb. It's nice to see the lasses playing football. And just as importantly for the club as well, for us, it affects us in terms of PSR, doesn't it? If they get into the top division financially, it's a massive boost for us. Huge. I don't think people appreciate it because I'm not sure if the women's game counts towards PSR in terms of outgoings, but I'm sure it does in terms of incoming.
Incoming, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a win-win. It's an absolute win-win. But great, obviously good to see get them put one over Sunderland. And I've seen some thing on Twitter where there's two Mackham guys moaning again about the lasses getting the photographs taken in front of the crowd. They were kicking off. They were absolutely going off on one, and that was quite amusing. I enjoyed that.
15,387 there, which is a new record for the Stadium Elite as well in the Women's Championship.
Yeah, good turnout for both sets of fans. Fair dues.
Yeah, certainly was. Certainly was. As always, the mind, produces different things during an international break. And one we talked about with Joe Allen last night was Andy Cole. It was actually his birthday yesterday, Sid. He was 53. And I was asking Joe, where does he fit in as far as his number 9 is concerned? He had 2 great seasons at Newcastle, Sid, and he was part and parcel of that wonderful promotion squad first and foremost.
Yep.
But then got into the Premier League, of course, and beat Hughie Gallagher's record at the first time of asking, which was our wonderful return to the Premier League. So just wonder
no penalties either. No penalties, which people forget.
Big thing to point out that, it's forgot that, no penalties whatsoever. So where does he stand in your all-time number 9 list? Is he in your top 5?
Yeah, in terms of what I've seen, I sort of remember Supermax, so it's hard to sort of just caught the end. I caught the last 3 years of him, so I suppose he counts. But obviously I've got Big Al at number 1. But as in terms of a natural finisher, you'd argue Cole's the most natural finisher that I've seen. In terms of being in the box, he scored the odd one from a distance. I remember him scoring one against Oldham when he looped the keeper. That was a great goal. And obviously he had Peter Beardsley near him, so that obviously always helps. And Clark, he used to knock quite a few through to him as well. But he was fabulous. I tell you what, he was great at a one-on-one finisher. He's probably the best one-on-one finisher I'd seen at the club. He was really quick, really, really instinctive. He used to cut across the front forward player, the defender, or at the back. Just that season in particular, he was a supernatural finisher. But I always remember his first game. I can't remember who it was against, but I remember him going in, I think it was the Leazer's end, got the ball, spun, and then wellied it in, and the crowd were waiting and hoping that he was going to score on his home debut, and he did. And I remember, I think it was the Leicester City game when the Andy Cole song occurred for the first time. I think that was the first game that it got used, and there was like a rumbling in the crowd, and then it went round the stadium, and we were beating them 6-0 at half time, like you do. Thinking it was going to be 12-0 by the end, and it was like 1-1 second half, if you like. But he's a top finisher. If you read Keegan's book, he infers very strongly that he thought he was tapped up, doesn't he? And so, it's hard. If we'd kept him and Les Ferdinand as a partnership, that could have been unbelievable. Or be able to alternate them on occasions as well. That we'd have certainly won the title. We'd have absolutely won the title the following year if we'd had the pair of them. I have no doubt about it. I think he was lethal. He was absolutely lethal. He was unfortunate that he came along in an era of probably the greatest plethora of English centre forwards that I think the country had seen. You had Big Al, you had Sheringham, you had him, you had Ferdinand, you had Fowler. I'm going to people out here. You had Stan Collymore, you had Kevin Phillips, even to a lesser extent as well. He was a decent centre forward, and that's just some of them. I'm sure I've missed somebody out, and any one of them would walk probably the England team at the current, and they were incredible. It was such a great bunch of centre forwards, and that's not including like players who maybe played just off, like Letizia as well, and obviously Beardsley and that. So had a great series of players, and he couldn't get his way. Ian Wright, sorry, that's the one I was thinking. Wrighty, of course, was magnificent. So he couldn't break his way into the England team. And they'll have been envious of Shearer. He didn't score for about 12 consecutive games. And then he was obviously first picked for the Euros, quite rightly so, and proved what he could do. And Shearer was a generational centre forward. Let's be perfectly honest. He's probably world-wise, after Brazil, Ronaldo, he was the best centre forward of the 1990s. I have no doubt in saying that. I genuinely believe that. So it was just unlucky Andy Cole had to go up against him, and other players had other attributes. Les Ferdinand's the best player I've ever seen in the air for Newcastle United. I mean, he used to just hang there for felt like half an hour. He was amazing in the air. And he was lightning quick, but Cole was lightning quick, was able to read the game really well. I loved the way he used to point where he wanted the ball to go, and Bielsa just to knock it through, and he'd run in and smash it in. And he was just absolutely electric. What a fabulous player, but very shy. Met him once, very, very shy down at the quayside. Spoke to him for a couple of minutes and we talked about race and things like that, because he was the first black player not to be verbally abused, from what I recall, at the ground. And so we spoke about that for a couple of minutes, but he was very, very nervous and very, very shy.
He's a great player. Great player, and many happy returns to Andy, of course, for yesterday. And you will be able to hear Andy and I talk once the book comes out. Once the Entertainer's book's out, I did do the interview with Andy, and we did about half an hour. So he did say that it was fine for us to release it on here as part of the publicity for the book. So we are going to be releasing a lot of those interviews that I did on NUFC Matters. Before we get to the break, John Askew asked a question. He said, are you confident of Champions League next season, Sid? Just stay in touch till January, have a good window, and we can do it. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think John's hit the nail on the head there, hasn't he? I think if we can stay within the top 6 by going into January, then providing we get a couple of players. One of them, can I just say yes? I don't see personally a centre half being a priority. I really don't. Not at this stage now, because you're going to have the two lads coming back fairly soon. For me, it has to be an attacker, has to be a right-sided goal scorer. And personally, and as I've said this before, I'd get another centre forward. I really would. I think we need goals. That's for me how we're going to get the Champions League. Villa look a much better squad this year. And they got the Champions League last year, and they don't look like they're going to flounder anytime soon. I think people have under sort of rated Villa and a little bit. They all think there's going to be a huge drop off because they're going to be playing all these Champions League games. But he's bought some good players, and I think their squad's quite good. I think it's probably deeper than our squad, if I'm being honest. Chelsea or the team, I don't think anybody knows what the hell's going on with them. They look like they can beat anybody on their day. They look like they can tonk anybody, and they don't look like they're taking a pounding off teams either. So I think Chelsea are the other team they're going to be. I think it's between 6 teams, in my personal opinion. I think there will be 4 or 5. There might be 5 spaces. Obviously, I think we can take Man City as a given unless everything goes against them. Liverpool, Arsenal. I think those 3 you'd have to say are pretty much nailed on. Although I was surprised at Liverpool. I thought they might have had a drop off. Then it's between us, Chelsea, and Aston Villa. I think it's 3 into 2. I suspect is the way it'll go. I don't see Spurs getting there because they'll go all Spursy. And Man United, my God, all these people harping on about Man United at the beginning of the season. Oh, I can see United, which is a real bugbear. Calling them, it'll be like top 4. They're nowhere in sight, absolutely miles off the pace. And Brighton, who could be the dark horse, if you like, they're hit and miss, aren't they? I mean, they can tonk anybody on a day as well, and then equally get tonked as well. There seems to be no halfway house. They're the classic Kevin Keegan style of football. If you go back to the Entertainers at the moment. They are the most entertaining team in the Premier League in terms of just ball, attack, bomb up front, and then leg it back. They play that sort of football.
Yeah, certainly do. John put another comment in. He said, not stirring anything, but just past Catalisa this morning, and they seem to be demolishing the student flats there. Probably means now, but you never know. Who was demolishing them? Who's demolishing them, John? That's what we want to know. The key to a good window might be a certain Mr. Mitchell. Does he need to prove himself? I would say he does, Sid. I mean,
the Catalina flats were going to get redone, weren't they? That was the reason why they were going to they are getting redone.
Right.
So,
okay. Seems a bit of a waste of time when we'll have to knock them over anyway. But anyway, that's speculation. John says the key to a good window might be a certain Mr. Mitchell. Does he need to prove himself, Sid, as far as you're concerned?
If it's you.
Yeah, you're just having a few internet issues, Sid. I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll keep that question for later.
Sorry, my internet's freezing up here, Steve. I do apologise.
Don't worry, mate. I'll come back to that question after the interval, mate. We're going to have the ad break, and we'll bring Rob in after this.
No problem.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can contact them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Contact them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And don't forget, we are also a podcast, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, you can hit the like button, which is the little thumb under each video. You can click the share button to share it to other social media, or subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, and it is for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the join button, and you can join the channel for $1.99 a month to help support us. We do promote events on this channel. Derek Wright is holding his official book launch at the Tyneside Irish Centre. 15th of November, tickets are £22 and that does include a signed book. Tickets are from newcastlelegends.com. Gold Star Promotions and Gateshead Leisure Centre are bringing Lennox Lewis to the area as part of his UK tour. You can get tickets by calling 0191 250 5066. Tickets start at £39. The Long Sands are back in aid of Dementia Matters and being supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band. Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets £15 from newcastlelegends.com or from the Clooney box office. Peter Beardsley will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January, 2025. Tickets are available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. An Evening with the Entertainers takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, the 24th of January, 2025. You can buy tickets for that now from the box office, 0844 249 1000, or from the website, tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge is now open at Gateshead Leisure Centre. 7 tokens for £99. Call 0191 250 5066 to book your tickets today. And the first of those tokens will be the 31st of January, an evening with Lee Clark. If you just want to buy tickets separately, call 0191 250 5066.
And it's a very good afternoon to Rob and Rob from Give Up the Ghost UK. How are you, Rob?
I'm fine. I'm trying not to take a fit of the giggles listening to Sid. Spurs will go Spursy.
I know. I tell you what, that could end up being a word in the dictionary, couldn't it, Rob? A football word in the dictionary.
It's brilliant. That was funny. Caught me off guard.
Good
Excellent.
stuff.
Are you both all right?
Good, yeah, good to see you.
All good. And
And you.
as always, we'll have an album cover that you're not going to be an album that you're not going to be covering today. Rob, thank you very much for this. Album of the week I'm not reviewing is called The Pecker.
Yeah, it's a real album.
He's called Emerald Gem.
I know.
Yeah,
Well,
what a character. I mean, he probably could have thought out the album cover a bit better. Is it
well,
signed? It's signed.
I think it's signed Ron Jeremy. It looks like him, but
It's signed on his stomach.
no.
Let's be honest, it's quite a stomach as well, isn't it?
What one?
Fantastic.
I know.
All right, good
Brilliant,
stuff. So
yeah.
What are you going to review today, Rob?
This is for Dave Mathers. Is a subscriber, and he's
Is this Dave?
he follows the band. Yeah, at the front. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good man. So yeah, Wishbone Ash. I've just speaking to him this a few days ago. I just asked what his favourite album was.
August. Right.
Yeah, and I have to say, if you like Star Wars, you must see it. You know, it's the first thing I seen when I seen it. It's got Darth Vader there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Argos. It's Greek mythology. It just means like a monster, you know, that sort of thing. I'd never heard them before, but it's really good. And said, I know, like you've done a Lindisfarne album. The production. This is very similar. It's like I don't know if it's that era, but this is 1972. But it's that warmth, that depth, that era. It's absolutely top notch. But yeah, it's Wishbone Ash. The band members put a list down of band suggestions. So they basically had two bits of paper. They picked one word from one page, one word from another, and Wishbone Ash came out of it. Yeah. So Argus, 1972. So it opens. It's a bit of a strange one because it's 7 tracks, but it's definitely not prog. But the songs are about 10, 11 minutes long each. So it opens with Time Was, an unusual one. Very, very good song, but I wouldn't listen to it if you're in an emotional mood or, that mentally that way. It's a bit emotional. Really, really good song. Very, very powerful. It's a very strong opener. I just wasn't expecting it. I think I was expecting a straight classic rock, but it was very emotional, but in a good way. It wasn't, it wasn't a depressing song, but it's really, really good. Wasn't expecting it, so I was pleasantly surprised. It's, believe it or not, it's a feel good as well, because it just takes your mind in different dimensions. I think a lot of these sort of bands did back in the day. Again, Lindisfarne as well. They've got that thing. They've got Sometime World. This to me is a classic blues rock. So again, soft, warm production. Again, top drawer. I don't hear prog in it at all. I mean, I have heard people saying, "Oh, they're a bit proggy," but I don't get it. That's just classic rock to me. Really, really, really good build up at the end of this, and the outstanding bass runs on this are sublime. You've got Blowing Free. Again, the chemistry, these 4 guys, it's unbelievable. Like really, really, really outstanding chemistry they've got in the band, and the harmonies. Again, the final mix, brilliant for the time period as well. It's sort of like a fun, feel-good vibe in this song. Very, very nifty, sharp guitaring on it. Flawless, to be honest with you. And you've got The King Will Come. The intro to this reminded me of Porro Man by Big Country of the Crossing album. Just at the intro, really, really like this wah-wah guitar on it. I do love that effect. Really nice military sort of snare work on this one, bringing the song together as drummers do. Track 5, got Leaf and Stream. Now this one, the music on this one actually really, really does reflect the name of the song. It's my favourite track on the album for me. It's a beautiful song. And again, this reminded me of Andy Partridge. He talks about having to see something like Love on the Farm Boy's Wages. You'll picture something. And this, it's like Leaf and Stream. As soon as you put it on, you hear the ambience. You picture yourself walking, on a Victorian folly or something like that, It just takes you to that place. Really, really good. Clever songwriting that is. Then you've got Warrior. Absolutely brilliant intro in this one. It's a guitar solo straight at the start. And to me, the drumming on this, I have to say, it reminded me of Animal from the Muppets. Brilliant. Coordination, spot on, but using every part of the kit. Probably has more cymbals than me. But really, really good. Straight in, honestly. It must have been pretty difficult to record this one. But it's the weakest song in the album for me. It's too repetitive. So it's, the last 30% of the song just keeps a bit, but again, it's that end of the album thing I keep saying. Talking of which, track number 7 is the final song. It's called Throw Down the Sword. Definite end of the album song again. I love the twin guitaring on this work. Again, I'm just going to leave this on as which artists would just occasionally end on a wow. Wasn't expecting the album to end on such a strong song like that. But it was good. It's a good album. It's getting a 7 out of 10, but it's Leaf and Stream for me. That's go and listen to it. That was an amazing album. And Dave, I never asked if you've ever seen the band or how many times you've seen the band, but yeah, I'm glad to listen to it. It wasn't what I was expecting. Definite classic British rock blues, but no prog for me at all. But like I say, I mean, I have seen them in magazines, like prog magazines and stuff like that. But yes, King Crimson and that, but I don't get it. I just see classic blues rock. But yeah,
a little bit Lizzie really, aren't they, with the twin guitars and all that?
Yeah. It's brilliant.
That's their best album, I think.
Yeah, I'd never heard it before. I'd never heard any of the stuff before, but I'm glad. Again, I've listened to the album 3 times, but yeah, Leaf and Stream, brilliant song. Really love it. So,
I like it.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Rob, as always. So, as always, you always bring something to the party, Sid, as well. What have you brought us this week on a musical?
Right, so we've just done a top 10 1980 show, which I need to, when I get off my backside to mix it, I'll stick it on the system sometime. And this is one of the albums that makes it for me. There's 3 of us. We've got quite a different list, by the way. And this is The Sea by the Waterboys. I just think it's absolutely magnificent. Released in 1985. It's the development, it's the culmination, if you like, of that big music sound that they started. And they did 3 albums. This is the 3rd album of that sort of genre. After that, they went off into a different style and started doing Irish music. And they'd never really come back to this sound, really. It's the big music sound sort of encapsulates a number of bands as well at that time. So you had U2, Simple Minds, although I think Simple Minds were much more technological and probably ahead of everybody else in a different sort of way. Big Country and The Alarm. I think those group of bands, along with the Waterboys, all sort of fit under a specific category. You'd always have the same fans at the same gigs. And the Waterboys were just magnificent. This is, for me, their best album. It's the pinnacle of that sort of style. You can hear these influences of Bowie, Bruce Springsteen, clearly, Lou Reed, Patti Smith, Van Morrison, massively on this, and Dylan. They're all here. They're all quite clear in terms of this album. And this is, as I say, the last time that they'll sound this way before they go off into a totally different tangent. So it's a short album, 9 tracks, 42 minutes of sheer brilliance for me. It kicks off with the animalistic Don't Bang the Drum, which is with like a little sort of intro. I think it's a trumpet at the beginning, or certainly brass. And then the album moves in, kicks in, really rocks. Next, we have the anthemic Whole of the Moon. Even Prince has covered that song. We all know it. It's been played to death. It was a song where Mike Scott's then girlfriend asked him to go and write a great song, and he did. He just wrote it that day, which is great. I love that story. We then got Spirit, which is like a little short thing, lovely little piano riff. And then we've got The Pan Within, which is about, sexuality and that, but it also conjures up the image of sort of mythology as well, and Pan and all of that. So very, very clever. He certainly it's got that sort of Celtic feel to it. Old England adds to that, which is the next track. And it's Mike Scott. It's quite pastoral in a funny sort of way, but he's commenting upon Thatcher's Britain and the decay and the death of areas, probably industrial Britain, if we think about it, because those were the days when we used to actually have some form of industry. Next, we've got Be My Enemy, which is really like a Dylan type track. It's like a rockier version of sort of Subterranean Homesick Blues. It's brilliant. It's really, really fast. It's almost like Dylan meets U2. It's a terrific song. Really love it. Really drives. Then we've got my favorite song on the album, which is Trumpets, which is a love song. I just love the lyrics. It's just so beautiful. It's just a piano, and he's got this like little vibraphone thing going on. It's very Springsteen in some respects. I mean, the line is like, your life is like an ocean. I want to dive naked, lose myself in your depths, and to be with you is the best of dreams. I think those lyrics are absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then it finishes off with like a Van Morrison type track. This is The Sea, the title track of the album. And it's only got 2 chords, It's only 2 chords in the whole song, yet it sounds massive. And it's beautiful, and it goes on for quite a while without getting boring. It's almost like a sea voyage in terms of the way that it feels as well. It's absolutely sensational. I was fortunate enough to see them on this tour at the Riverside, and it was possibly the busiest I've ever seen the Riverside. I've seen loads of great bands there. Bowie was probably the other great gig there. I've seen other bands, but they were never as great as this there. I must have seen hundreds of gigs there, but this is right in the top 2 or 3 gigs, along with the Skywalkers, may I add, for any local fans there of the bands that I've seen at the Riverside, and they were unbelievable that night. They were I think they'd been on the Tube, and then they went straight down to the Riverside. What a show that was. What a great band. What a distinctive voice. And honestly, he's such a good songwriter. He still writes great albums now, but for me, nothing comes close to this. It's just a remarkable album. So yeah, there we go. This is
good stuff. And you've sent us a couple of other things. Firstly, a book which you're probably going to recommend to our
I've I picked again. It's Mr. Mercedes, isn't it? Yeah, I haven't even finished it. I'm currently reading it at the minute, and it's brilliant. So it's a book I can't put down. All I can say, it's absolutely fantastic. Stephen King, who's obviously best known as a horror writer in some respects, but this is, although has written other great genres as well, he is one of the great writers without doubt, of the last 100 years. And this is his attempt at being a hard-boiled detective sort of writer, and he does it absolutely perfectly. But a guy who runs down a load of people in a Mercedes, and then it's the to and fro between the two main characters. It's beautifully written. It's very, very clever. I'm loving it so far. I can't recommend it enough. It's really thrilling. And of course, King is he's an absolute genius. Other great books out there of the horror genre as well. He's written hundreds. The Stand is a great book if you get the chance to have a go at that. Brilliant. And
you sent us this, mate, which is very apt because of the Entertainers book that we advertised during the advert.
Yes. Yeah, King Kev, met him a couple of years ago. What a lovely guy. We were talking about Maradona for a couple of minutes, and he was quite funny. Asked him what it was like to play against. For me, Maradona's the greatest player I've ever seen, and he said without a doubt Maradona was the best player he ever played against. He said he gave a funny little anecdote when I think England beat them 3-1, if I recall rightly. And he says Maradona was out of this world, and he was only about 19 at the time. And he says he got the ball, Maradona ran at him, and he sort of just did this little shimmy and went past him, and Keegan goes, right, try and do that again. And he said he did it again 5 minutes later. And at the end of the game, they swapped shirts. Because remember, at the time, Keegan was the biggest player in the world at that time. People genuinely forget how big Kevin Keegan was. Mighty Mouse, exactly. He was the European Player of the Year two years consecutively. He came back as well. People forget this. He came back to Southampton and won PFA Player of the Year before he came to Newcastle. That's always overlooked. All right. So he didn't just suddenly deteriorate and become rubbish. He was PFA Player of the Year. You don't get that for being rubbish. He was absolutely top notch. And but he's great. What a great fella. And he goes, "Oh, ask us that question. Ask us that question during the talk." And then he talked about not coming back to St. James's Park during his talking. And he says, "I want to come back when we've won something." And he says, "I don't want to be this person who detracts from the manager at the time and all the sort of sideshow that goes with it if I rock up." He said, "I want to just sort of be in the background and then turn up when we've won something, and sort of then that would be absolutely fine." So yeah, what a lovely guy, genuinely really nice guy. They say don't meet your heroes, but KK, just fab. What a great bloke.
Yeah, definitely the exception to the rule about don't meet your heroes. Rob, anything going on with the band?
Rehearsal last night. I looked at an old set list we'd done, and I missed playing a couple of songs, obviously with Johnny vocals now. We put a couple of older songs, Rosetta Stone, Sister's song, and obviously the vocals are a bit down. But again, we were saying, Johnny, just your song, own it, do what you want, do the range you want. We're not a Sisters cover band, we're not a cover band of any of these artists. So I think that's the beauty. But we jammed them last night, and we've done Phoenix by The Cult as well, which again, it's got the wah-wah guitar on it. So it was really good last night, yeah. So excellent, really, really good. So
going to see The Cult at the end of the month. Looking forward to that.
Aye, this playing as The Cult or Death Cult was, because last one was Death Cult. Right.
So Squeeze the other day as well. They were great, by the way. I know your favourite band. They were absolutely sensational. Yeah. And I saw the Undertones. Great. Loads of gigs on at the minute. It's just mental. I've got Pretenders, Steve Hackett. Yeah,
Yeah.
loads.
I seen the Water Boys as well on that tour, said at Queen's Hall in Edinburgh. It was
Excellent.
good.
Well,
Yeah,
that's his home city as well, of course, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a
It
hometown gig.
was that era, like who's playing or who have you not seen, or
Yeah.
it was that thing. It was word of mouth. Go and see the Water Boys, and then stuff like that. It was good. It was all good.
Word of mouth, the good old days. Colin McNair's taken over at Gateshead. Are you happy with that appointment, Rob? I know you're of the other black and white persuasion as well.
Yeah, well, it scored last night, 3-1. We get Hensford, the replay, but I've not really looked into it much. I think he was with MK Dons or Carlisle before. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's a former player coming back. He's a former player coming back to Gateshead. So, I mean, that in itself should be a bit of a plus, I think. He knows the area, he knows the club. And, you'd like to think that he can, maybe hit the ground running. Yeah,
I mean, I thought last night, it was despicable. I mean, I had the game on, but surely every player is being watched now by the new manager. And 3-1, no, I'm sorry. But then again, if you're complacent and you take your eye off the ball, that's what happens.
Very true, mate. Very true.
That's it.
Look forward to seeing you next week, mate. Thanks for joining us, Rob. Take care. Have a good week.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Great
yes,
stuff.
Ian Astley's still singing. He's quite funny. He's good crack, actually. I saw them at the Sage recently, and recently must be about 4 years ago now. And they were doing one of their albums. And he sort of had a David Bowie t-shirt because I was quite near the side at the front. And he sort of waves and did sort of thumbs thing. And then he's talking to the crowd and he goes, he points at his belly and he just describes himself as a fat old punk. Good crack, really good crack, actually. But great band. Billy Duffy, great guitarist. Proper
Lots of people haven't read the book, but lots of people seem to have watched the series, the first series.
Yes,
of
it's
Mr. Mercedes. Is it a TV
on
program?
Netflix, and I don't want to watch it yet because I want to finish the book. So,
right,
it's a three series thing. He did the book as there's a trilogy of books of that character. So, yeah, looking forward to finish it. Should finish it tonight.
Okay, once you had your internet issues, John asked you whether you thought that this next transfer window might be Mr. Mitchell's time to prove himself. Obviously, Paul Mitchell coming in as the director of football.
Do I think he needs to prove himself? Not really. No, I think his track record's fantastic. I think over time he'll prove himself, and certainly next year in the summer. I think is it too early now? No, he should have a huge bank of people to sort of look at. But as I say, and as I said earlier on, John, my priority is for me. I'm not. It's not a centre half for me. It's definitely a right-sided attacker who scores goals. The lad at Brentford's amazing, but let's not be too big and cocky here and think we can just go and assume and we can just take players who we like willy-nilly, because it doesn't work that way. But somebody like that, or the lad at Bournemouth, I was really impressed with. I thought he was fabulous as well. So a right-sided goal scorer and possibly another goal scorer if we're not going to be playing Asulu, and I would like to see a holding midfielder come in. Mm-hmm. Or remember, if Botman does come back, we can play Shaw or Shea, as the holding midfielder. He does it for Switzerland. He's done it for Switzerland. He's more than capable of playing that role in certain games, not all of the time, but the odd game certainly. So up front's the priority for me. Forward and right side, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Right side up front. I think a lot of people agreeing with you as well. Let's look ahead to the weekend, Sid. Brighton and Hove Albion come to St James's Park. It is the first game after the international break, the latest international break, I should have said. And it's a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, which is as rare as hen's teeth. Kieran Trippier has reportedly suffered a hamstring injury, which is going to keep him out till early December. That was the report we saw, but unconfirmed.
Do you think we'll ever see him again then?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see him. I think we'll see him again. I would be surprised if he goes in January, but who knows? You never know in this crazy club of ours. There is a bit of optimism around the club that Callum Wilson and Alexander Isak could both be fit this weekend. That's like seeing Halley's Comet.
Yeah,
of the Northern Lights. Although a lot of people saw them last week, it was all over social media. And potentially Lewis Miley could be back as well. There's talk of him being available and fit. And
I read that Miley's going to come back for the Chelsea game.
All right, okay. So that could be the
the
Chelsea
local journos.
Yeah, so Jamal Lascelles and Sven Botman are the only players, along now with Kieran Trippier, who will be on the sidelines. The big thing for Joe Linton to avoid at the weekend and for the next couple of months is a yellow
Not going to
card.
happen, is it? I know we said that about Bruno last year, but my Lord, I'd put my mortgage on Joe Linton getting a yellow card from now to Christmas.
He is one booking away from an automatic one-game suspension. It's going to happen. Let's just accept it. It's going to happen at some point. When it happens is the key to which game he misses, of course. Brighton and Hove Albion.
Then you've got a little bit more cover again there.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And we've got people like Sean Longstaff, who up until a few weeks ago was a first choice.
You've got Willock who can play in the same position as Big Joe as well. So
exactly.
Yeah.
We're not struggling, mate.
No.
We're not struggling in that department anyway. Brighton have got a few injury problems of their own. Adam Webster, Jan Paul van Heck, Yao and Matt O'Reilly are all unavailable. And Jorginho Rutter, is doubtful after he withdrew from international duty, but no confirmation on him yet. Obviously, a little bit early for team news. Solly Marsh, though, Simon Adringa, and former Newcastle United player James Milner may all return this weekend. Milner, testament to how well he's looked after himself, and maybe the luck he's had with injuries as well, it has to be said. 38 years of age now and still managing to feature in the Premier League. Good
player. Very good player. I would never class him as a great player. I know for a little while he took Nobby Solano's position, which I could never understand. Solano, one of the greatest players I've ever seen at the club. But Milner, very, very, very good pro and a top-notch lad by the sounds of it. And I love the fact that he takes the mick out of himself as well. He's sort of seems to be quite humble, seems to be like a decent bloke. Good luck to him. Like him a lot. But this is some game. This is some game for me. All the games, this is the hardest game to predict.
Really?
This is absolutely the hardest game to predict because you don't know what you're going to get with them. They are so unpredictable. They could go out and beat us 3 or 4, and then vice versa. We could go and do exactly the same to them. I'm really struggling. I'm genuinely really struggling to think of what the score was. If I was to have a better what I think the score with is, I'll throw up my cards up in the air and I'll go 3-3. I see goals. I see lots of goals in this game. Yeah, I do.
It's not the way Newcastle are playing, though.
They score goals. They're really fast. We're really fast. Mm-hmm. We've both, and what we don't have at the back is pace, and what they don't seem to have at the back is pace either. So it's got the recipe for goals. I watch it be 0-0, but it's got the recipe for goals. They've got a couple of good centre forwards there. They've got 3, to be fair. I mean, I genuinely thought the lad who used to play for Man United, he played for Sunderland as well, didn't he? What's his name again? Danny Welbeck.
Oh, Welbeck, yeah.
I thought he was finished, and he seems to have he's like having an Indian summer. He's just suddenly come into sort of form over the last couple of years, and he's banging them in. He looks really, really good. He's been sensational this season for me. His hold-up play is great. I love his leadership on the pitch. He looks like a really nice option to have. I think Pedro is a big miss that we should have got. He's a bad decision on our behalf, really, because he can also play on the right, and I think that's a big miss for us. We should have signed him when it looked like it was done. I mean, Romano actually had the whole sort of deal thing done, didn't he? We had the whole "here we go" statement, and then we pulled out. We should have went for him. I think he's top draw. Ferguson is another one who seems to have just gone off a little bit, doesn't he?
Been injured, yeah.
Again, I forget how young he is. Is he even 20? Is he even 20? I'm not sure he is.
The conveyor belt of Brighton's been impressive, but you can't go on forever and sell your best players, and that's why I think this year Brighton have invested heavily, and they have invested heavily.
And of course, they bought the lad from us. And again, people will wet themselves if he has a good game against us. But unfortunately, it had to be done by the looks of it, I'm still more gutted because I've never seen him play. So I'm still more gutted about Elliot Anderson, who scored last night for the under-21s and got man of the match. So for me, he was a bigger loss. And I read the article yesterday saying, if the lad at Brighton, if they'd kept him, he was going to be a top 10 right winger in the world, this, that, and the other. But then, the way I look at it, if you're going to play for a top team, and let's say we're going to be an average, like year on year out, get into the Champions League regularly anyway. All right, let's say we are in, say, 2 years' time, we're going to be, it's the norm for us to get Champions League to be expected. Then wouldn't he then also have to have been a top 10 player on the right-hand side anyway to have got into our team in the world? Yeah. And we'd go out and get one if we haven't got one. So that didn't make any sense to me whatsoever, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, we might lose a little bit in the long run, but needs must, I'm afraid. And that's what we had to do. And we did what we did. Good luck to the lad. Hope he has a stinker on Saturday. And then I hope he rips up the league for the rest of the season. So, fair dues.
I'm gonna let Rob Maltman say this. Rob does all our design work. Fantastic work he did with the fanzine, and obviously he does all of our flyers now for the shows. Big shout out. He's also done the Big Up one, which is tonight's show. We've got Joe Allen at 6 o'clock on the Big Up channel. I've pinned the link to Big Up in the chat if you want to give us a follow on there and tune in tonight. It will be live. And we've also got Match Day Live as well. I'll be at the game, of course, but Tom in America is going to run the watch along on Saturday. So make sure you tune in. It's the Minnesota Mags are going to be running it, and looking forward to seeing what they produce. I'll be able to sit back and watch that at the end. He's a bit nervous about it, but he volunteered, and thank you to him for doing that. But that'll be on Big Up. So Rob's question was, here's the question: which former Newcastle player would you add in their prime to the current team? I know what my answer is, but I'm not going to spoil this answer.
The obvious one is Peter Beardsley, because he's the greatest player that we've ever seen. But in terms of the current team, then if all were fit, then it would be Nobby Solano.
Wow, that's not what I would say Alan Shearer, because I think Alan Shearer would score the goals in this team. And I think if he didn't get the service, he'd make sure he bloody got it. So I think that's the way Alan Shearer was.
I would say with the current team, Nobby Solano would fire the bullets, create chances or do slot balls through for the likes of Isaac and Wilson.
Great shout, yeah.
And they would score. Obviously, Big Al. I mean, I think you did the thing the other day, the four greatest players that you would have, and Keegan would be Keegan, Beardsley, obviously, Big Al, and then my other one was Nobby Solano. Because of the amount of goals and assists he had, it was nearly 80 odd in terms of goal contributions, which is insane for a guy on the wing. So absolutely just such an underrated player. Be Nobby Solano for me. Just a genius of a footballer and the best first touch I've ever seen at the club.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, if you want to catch me live, I'll be back at 6 o'clock, but on Big Up. So the link is up pinned in the chat. Make sure you subscribe to Big Up as well. For me and Joe Allen, 6 till 7. I'm back tomorrow night, slightly later, 7 o'clock with Gibbo live. And then on the Three Amigos on Friday, it'll be me, Steve, Mitch, George, and we'll be joined by Keith Patterson again, because the interesting turn of development.
Who knows what will have happened by Friday?
There's a lot going on, lots of meetings being cancelled, and Keith's not very happy, so he's popping back on Friday to join us. But for now, thanks to Rob for joining us, and thanks to Sid. Make sure you subscribe. Songs from the Attic 1977. See you next week, Sid.
Take care, folks. See you later, mate. Bye-bye.